people resigning. And, I mean, I can go through the ones that I know about since I've been here, and the reasons they left.
Before we go there, I just wanna clarify one thing that I know that you brought up, and I just wanna be sure that we're all saying the same things. You say research of kids having one-on-one parents isn't great. That's not true. It's one-on-one paras where you only have one para going with them over. Because you wanna promote generalization and independence, you actually switch between two one-on-one paras and flow them. It's so that they learn how to take direction from other people who are one-on-one. It's not that,
I'm quoting the work of John Greco.
I have to study, so what I'm saying is that if you teach them to generalize on a one-on-one, if they need one-to-one, it's not that they died and it's bad for them. It's when you stick them with one.
They only have one, and when that person's
Yes,
on
for a
And
long
I think
period of time.
long-term for students, the goal needs to be that a one-to-one is less beneficial for them than not having an adult always be with them in the classroom.
No,
So-
what's beneficial is if each individual child is taken a look at and we decide if they need that or
Oh, I
not.
agree with you.
Well, it's legal, it's a legal
Individual,
obligation.
it's based on individual
You
needs.
can't, oh, is that Melissa?
It's a legal obligation, I mean, there's, isn't it?
I couldn't hear
I
you.
was
I'm like
confused.
way over here, sorry.
Yeah. I would just say I mean, isn't it a legal obligation? I mean, maybe that's my misunderstanding, but you have to,
We all have individual education.
yeah, that legally obligates a
So
parent
that
to be.
is-
So I
Every
think,
service that is offered to every child in this district is individualized to that child.
Right.
There is no basket that we just shove any kid in at
Right.
any time.
Right.
so it sounds like the concern is if we lost 15 paras, what happens to those spaces that they were actually working in? They were assigned at one point. Why is there suddenly not a need there? Were they all one-on-ones? Were they, what changed that now,
So I can't speak to the 5 that were, not here when I.
So of the
when I
15,
got-
5 again were
So
unfilled.
10. I really did prepare to think about it quite this, in detail, I gotta be honest with you, to go for individual people where they were.
I
I
don't
would
think,
say
I
no,
don't
I
think
don't
she's
think
anyone
asking
needs
why
to
did
know
they
that.
resign, I think she's
Across the
asking.
district, so I'm trying, I know,
Yeah.
but where they're.
Well, not why they
across
left,
the
but I-
district,
Outplacement is some of them.
yep, if a student was outplaced and they, are no longer here. It could be, there were kids at the high school, in
That
particular, was a place where they didn't necessarily need as many paras, middle school.
Scott, how many did you lose from your building, do you know that?
We had 2, and they both left to pursue their graduate studies.
Okay, Karen, do you know how many left your building?
Those kids have them anymore?
We didn't have any,
You got
one got a different position,
And then you got one.
right, one got one. moved
So
to
the
different
paras you
position.
had
You got
last year
one
are
from
still
our-
in place for you this year, and Scott, you're down 2.
Some places paras move between
They
buildings.
moved within the 4
Right,
buildings.
right.
They move
Do
back.
they travel from building to
Why-
building?
why
You're
do
saying they
that?
have some Spalding parents that actually get in the car and come to McAllister?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
she was
no,
saying, there's a
That's different.
situation in which a para left in McAllister, they didn't have another para, so they brought one from another
Okay.
school. Didn't really go very well. I have a question.
Yes.
Is it now gonna be the district policy that we are not, that the preference is not gonna be having a one-on-one regardless?
No. I think if a student is in a place where they need that, then as Melissa said, it's an
Yeah.
individual education.
So is there a
Okay, that's
discretionary,
fine.
is there a
Yeah.
discretionary fund, because if they're not budgeting for it, so say you have X amount that are currently right now, you're not budgeting for any additional, right? That's what I'm gathering, that whatever 14 that
So,
left, they're not gonna
One of the things
fill.
you need to understand about when they do a budget, is a budget is, and help me, because you're also a
No,
budget
I
thing over
understand.
there. Is a budget is an estimate of what you think you're gonna be spending.
Right, so is there a
the
discretionary
special
fund
ed-
when the IEPs
Special
come up?
ed costs
Yes, okay. That's what I
are
was-
fluid.
Right.
And we predict as best as we can. But if we have a student for whom other strategies are not working and an adult is needed, that's what we're gonna do. So,
Was there any discussion with any of, like, in the situations where pairs are no longer there, are other services or support being provided to those teachers in those classrooms
in order to not cause kind of what she's saying, the disruption or the, just, it seems like,
Maybe we should use your school as an example,
Yeah,
because
there
you had
needs
two
to
that
be-
left to pursue
Graduates.
additional.
Right.
So those kids, are they still gonna be at your school?
They weren't one-to-ones, I don't think.
Oh, they weren't.
One was a one-to-one.
One was,
One
she
was.
was.
So what
So you have
happens-
two, so if that one is, what's gonna happen for that child that had that? Is it gonna be just now another parent responsible for multiple kids?
No, not in this particular case.
No, I mean,
Well, if we didn't need them in the first place, then why did we have them? But if we have enough bodies, we have enough paras at the school, and we lost two, you're not telling me that. So, you lost two, but the need for them disappeared with them going into first, simultaneously with them going to go to graduate school. Like, I'm wondering where the bodies are, Scott, and I'm wondering why I was told, essentially that it, not even essentially, I was told by you that it wasn't in the budget, so why am I hearing something different at the Spedpac meeting?
The person
Do
in
we or do
question,
we not have the money for paras? And do we, or do we not have enough paras at Spalding? That's my two questions.
did you wanna,
the person in question who left for graduate studies was at the same time where that particular child was receiving a fading of supports, so they utilized current personnel within Spalding.
Was that the same student that had a one-to-one, Scott?
Yes,
Okay, so you were, before this para resigned, the plan was in process with that one-to-one para to fade that one-to-one out.
already that was documented, yes.
and I think there's a second one that we've been able to work on. It's
That's,
starting to fade.
that is correct.
So you're saying both of them were working with students that were fading and they were gonna
In
be.
the process of a fading of supports at different levels, yes.
Can
Well, that worked out well.
Can I ask another? Well, yeah.
Yeah, that worked out well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little interesting.
Yeah.
Some kids like water lucky.
Can I ask a question too, kind of along this line, not necessarily the paras and if people still wanna talk about it, but it appears to me that there is a large, amount of people resigning in special ed in the district.
Aren't there also some people on a medical leave who are also in space?
True,
I mean,
right.
I'm not looking for particulars, but I'm
Yeah.
supporting your
I
point
just
of
think,
it's a lot of people.
there does seem to be a rapid turnover or people, leaving on medical leave and things like that, and I just wonder as a whole, is there something, internally going on, it's just alarming because, when you're in a district and your kid has services and, 5 people on the team has left, you're not lucky.
No.
So,
When you're the principal in that school, you don't feel very lucky either.
well, you know what, I appreciate the difficulty, but it's the children who suffer. And we all have difficulties with our jobs that
Well, I
which
think,
didn't
I
happen.
would say to that, the principal
I-
cares about children too.
I never
He
said
wants
she
to
didn't.
support them.
I never said she didn't. What I'm saying is,
There's a retention problem.
There's a retention
And we're
problem.
wondering how you're addressing it.
Thank you.
And to further that point, I don't think that's necessarily on the principals, I think sometimes that's on the special ed department. And how are they, what is the continuity plan within the district when these people leave? Because I've been asking that all year, so I would like to know, what plan do we have in place? If somebody calls out and they're on medical leave, who is gonna service my child immediately? What's the plan?
And how are they qualified?
Yeah, so that would be a bottom line is how are they qualified? We had a missing in one school of the special education teacher for the grade. They were replaced with a temp from Kelly. And that's not appropriate. And they really need to have
So-
appropriate training.
In my dream world, we would have somebody right there, Amy, to take over that day. We have aggressively recruited to find special ed teachers, and we had a psych position and an that we weren't able to find someone to fill. We had an SLP person that we were not able to find someone to fill. So moving forward, there's a couple things that we're doing. We are actively, I went to UConn's recruiting fair last week, and we We worked very hard to engage people. I've been contacting people. The principals are contacting people that we thought were really strong candidates to get them out to look around Suffield, and so that we can get some strong candidates. And we're trying to do it early, so that because that's, you know, when there's people are looking, and the pool of candidates is the biggest. Both in so all our positions are posted, and we're working very hard to get all the interviewing done as soon as we can, so we have an opportunity to do that. It's very frustrating because I'm sure for you, because there aren't people out there.
I guess that just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, this isn't an isolated incident, right? I mean, you have to, at minimum, have the expectation you're gonna have attrition. And so what are you doing? Okay, for right now, maybe we're in a bind, but this is gonna continue to happen. So what are you doing for June? What are you doing for next September? What are you doing about it now as a plan? I get that right now you're in a bind and you can't find somebody, but we also talked about this 2 meetings ago. So
How do we get here?
how are we tackling that, I guess, more aggressively, is my question?
So I've been contacting recruiting agencies to try and find people. We have, I have my requests out to a couple different agencies for an SLP, because the SLP at McAllister's out on medical leave. And I think one of the things that we need to talk about so that people understand is, you know, in these situations, there is a responsibility of the school district to provide compensatory services. Compensatory services are not necessarily about a one-to-one for every hour, but they are about making sure the student does not have loss. And we're gonna have to be looking at that. And I don't think it's something that should be that parents have to say, you owe me, frankly. I mean, it's something that we should be talking about ourselves as to, have kids made appropriate progress? And do we need to offer them some compensatory services?
Wow.
But what about the IEP being a legally binding contract between the school district and parents? I mean, if it legally says on the IEP, the child receives a one-on-one, or the child receives so many hours of services by such and such an individual, it's qualifying. Where does that leave our children?
And remember, we negotiate very hard at the front end to hang on to every minute that we get. And so to hear that now we're not going to get a one-to-one, for instance, my daughter, who is hearing impaired, is one of those children impacted by the loss of a speech pathologist. And, you know, to hear me that, you know, there's only gonna be an analysis of whether or not she's regressed. Well, she may not have regressed, however, her progress will be measured.
Correct.
You know.
It isn't about regression, it's about making appropriate progress.
Okay, well, I think
So-
just for those in the room who have really struggled hard to get every minute of service in their IEP, that document is sacred to us, and we wanna make sure that isn't.
I agree. I mean, if anybody has ideas for me, I mean, one of the things I was gonna ask the group is to let you know that we are actively recruiting high school, McAllister, and Spalding special education. We're recruiting an SLP for McAllister, a school psychologist from McAllister. We have a choice position that floats between McAllister and Spalding, school psychologist, and a high school psychologist. Did I get them all? Nursing, and nursing. So I would also ask you guys to, if you have any ideas or any contacts or leads for me, while it isn't your responsibility, you know, this is a group that is supportive to, you know, if you know somebody who's looking and you wanna put in a good word for them, or somebody who's looking to go someplace different, please do.
We'd love to support that search, although I think it would behoove the district to ask the question, why this dire need? You know, the question was asked before, what's going on culture in the district that's sending people away? And there's a disproportionate
And we should look
number.
further if this is happening in other districts as well, or if this is isolated.
This is
to just that.
disproportionate.
But we went through this a few years ago, we had a massive.
Okay.
for teachers and.
And it was again a transition time.
A huge amount leave,
I also, going back to his topic and linking the two, my recollection about, when we increased paras during Karen Baldwin and Jim Collins' early years, there was a purpose for that. And the purpose for that was to have some flexibility so that paras could circulate and build capacity in terms of their data taking ability, in terms of their ABA knowledge, in terms of that kind of training, because we wouldn't be at least minimum standards to serve the kids. We'd have some slack so that they could go to training, so that they could shadow, so that they could move around the district to become really effective and build that capacity. And that was part of the strategy. And I know we added a lot of paras during those years. And so I was really truly disappointed to see that we were reducing the number of paras, because that to me meant that was the end of that strategy, which seemed to me to be, those are the front line.
Actually, we have a week, the last week of July, that we're paying any para who's willing to work to come in and do a full week training with CCSN on all of those topics that you just talked about. Jen Maloney has been doing that with them. They do not have students on the days that we have the half days that we have, and then also the teacher conference days. So we've been using that time with them as well to talk about those issues. And at the end of that week, there is a competency assessment for them. And then we're going to continue to provide that to them throughout the year.
I guess the other question I have too, Nancy, is how are our teachers handling 15 bodies? You know what I mean? Like, do our teachers in Scott's building and Karen's building feel like they have the manpower to handle potentially 2 or 3 or 4 IEP children in their classroom? I mean, have you guys gotten any feedback as far as, hey, this isn't working for me? And if you did, would you run it up the flagpole? I'm sure you would.
I can speak to Spalding. I mean, we have a highly collaborative group with a number of support members that include the principal, case manager, school psychologist, our PBIS, behavior coach, lead teacher, specialists, where we partner with the teacher relative to supporting kids in the class, whether they're regular ed or special ed, in terms of their needs.
Yeah, and I think that we have also increased the professional development that we've given to teachers. Sometimes it's your classroom, Scott, needs XYZ professional development, so just you will get that, because right now you're in need of that, and then we make plans to spread that out to the rest of the staff. I think that professional development has also increased. It's one of Karen's, comparatively, that's one of Karen's, and Nancy's large pushes is that professional development. Because we have.
So we're giving them better skills to handle potentially more children without an extra body in the classroom.
What about though when you have a team that splits up? How do you handle something like that? When you have a team, if you've lost, it was mentioned earlier, a team disappeared. How do you, what do you do in a case like that?
We're trying a very good general ed teacher. And again, maybe, trying to train people as quickly as possible. That's a big part of it, that training piece.
I have a question for you, Nancy.
Oh, can I keep going with that then, before we do something else? I think one of the things that we do recognize too, is that there is a need to build our services for students with intensive needs. That's why we're looking to do the CCSN, having CCSN come in. And Mark is actually going to come and talk at our next meeting, but he did come and speak at a board meeting, and we tried to tape it, but it didn't work very well, I think.
Get the gist of it, but.
I have heard there's some questions about that because it's a lot of money. So I don't know if that's something people want to hear about a little bit.
I just have a question. We were given a grant back in the beginning of the school year. I was approached by my son, who's one of the autistic kids in the middle school. We were approached in December to have him entered into this program. We were talked to in January. It's now April. We haven't received any services from this grant. Are we that short-staffed in the special ed department that these grants are falling through the cracks and they're not being followed up on?
So there is somebody in charge of the grant? And if you wanna talk to me before we go and give me your name, I can follow up on that for you.
I can give you an update too. It's in the works, it's in the works.
I've been
No,
hearing
I
that
think
since
it's in
December.
the
that
works,
it's
and
No, it's
in-
really, really in the works.
I know, and I spoke to the woman, and she's coming to our house, it's just now gonna be the end of April before any plan is given.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be the end of school.
No, they're gonna work through they're gonna try and work through the summer.
Right, but it just seems like it was kind of like money that didn't come from the town or the budget that
It's the
was
state,
not.
so if that answers your
capitalized
question, everything with the state, I mean, it's the state, there's that is not, it has nothing to do really with the district and their organization skills. She did the grant, she did this grant.
Oh, I know, but I also know the check was sitting there for a long time when we could have had it,
Right.
we didn't get it.
From the state,
Yeah, it was sitting there ready to
Paperwork
pass,
needed to be
yeah,
completed.
from
we
us.
did not get it.
Okay, so that's on the district. I figured
So-
that.
That was Amy asking for help from the state not getting it, frankly.
Okay.
And then I hate to do this, but Scott, I kinda disagree, as a mom that goes into the classroom all the time. I think that the teachers are really stretched thin, and there is a lot of kids that would benefit from maybe not a one-on-one para, but an extra body in the room, and the teachers need the support. Because their focus is helping these kids who need it, and they're not educating the class properly. They don't have the extra academic support that they used to even just go make photocopies and go do, like, busy work, so they're being pulled out to do that. So as a mom that goes into the classes, you can definitely tell that they're stretched too thin and they're not getting the support that they need. And I think it affects the kids socially because other kids recognize that these kids are falling apart. So I think even at first grade, my daughter comes home and says, so-and-so had a really bad day today.
Yeah.
Well, so-and-so would probably, my daughter would notice if she had the proper, help.
Right. If you notice, Scott didn't say, yes, I have all the people I need. He said, the people I have were collaborating really well. And I think they are. The people he has are collaborating really well and are trying really hard. But, and you might have more to add, but this is what I heard. And I agree with what you said, but there's not enough bodies, there's not enough paras. Teachers do not have enough support, and the paras are mega stressed out. Because they're spread so thin, and the expectations are so high of them, and they don't know all the time what's expected of them. And it could be a big reason why we can't keep them.
I don't wanna belabor the para point, but it seems that I had heard, and Nancy, please correct me if I'm wrong, or the other administrators, that when Mrs. Brasi came to the district, she recognized early on that we had more paras than a larger district, perhaps the one she came from. And I hope there was more to that analysis than numbers, than number of bodies and kids who are here, because again, as we've said, it's based on the individualized needs. And so I'm hoping that she just didn't cover the whole analysis that was put into determining how many paras we need in Suffield. Because again, just to be clear, if it's based on we have X population of students and enrollment, and so we should need a certain amount of paras, that's obviously not the way it's determined.
In the essence of time, I'm gonna say let's go on to let Nancy talk and answer questions in regards to the Center for Autism. I think the para issue is obviously not gonna be solved tonight. Nancy's gotten some feedback.
Yep.
And, I'm sure that some of you may even have other things that you may wanna ask, so, if it's okay with everyone, unless you have something really pressing, let's let her talk about the Center for Autism and go from there. Is that okay with everyone?
Is that having more questions that we're gonna, because I know you have questions that you want to answer.
Right, there were questions that parents have been asking, and we just kind of let her know, give her a heads up, so we could start with them and kind of put it in some sort of an organized fashion.
And then if something comes up, feel free to ask.
And I just want to be conscious of time.
Yeah.